Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here with our second group talking about our Discworld TTRPG Kickstarter. This is the launch party stream event for that. The Kickstarter went live earlier today, and we've already met our goals, and we are unlocking stretch goals even during the stream, so all day. So it's really exciting. So thank you everybody for joining us for this chat. And if you missed the first part of the chat, it will be available on our Twitch VOD, and we will be uploading it to our YouTube later as well. So don't worry about it too much. You can go back and watch that when you have the chance. But if you do have any questions for us today, just please pop them in the chat and we will do our best to get to them. I am April Hill. I'm the community manager here at Modifius, and I am joined by some of our lovely people that have worked on the Discworld Kickstarter and have really, made it come to fruition. And so I will go around, let everybody introduce themselves, and start with Samantha.
One of those people that has brought this project to fruition is not me. I have just put the Kickstarter page together. But I am the head of brand, and I'm Follow Black Cats in chat, so I've been harassing you all, answering your questions in there as much as I can. But we're going to get some real answers now from the real people, the real heroes who have been making this game. Well, who are we going to next?
We'll pop on over to Andrew.
Yeah, so I'm not a hero. That is a lie. I'm the lead dev on Discworld. I'm one of the people that helped bring this to fruition. I can word, so it's been a long day. Numbers have gone up staggeringly. But yeah, I'm the lead writer. I wrote the rule set. I created the narrative system and all that jazz. Well, not just me. That's far too much of a boast for any one person. But as part of the dev team, I've led this endeavour and got us to where we currently are.
And Bryce.
I am the senior development editor and editorial manager at Modifius, and I'm the lead editor on Discworld Adventures and Ankh-Morpork, and I've never been described as a real person before, so that's very nice. I will say that for context, for anyone watching, both me and Andy have toddlers, so and neither of those toddlers have been particularly well for the last 4 or 5 days. So if you notice any slurred speech or just any of us getting distracted or forgetful, that's because we have very young children. So that's why.
And not because they're sloshed. It's not because they've been drinking. It's because they have young children at home. So
sure.
Yes.
More than one thing can be true at once.
This is true. So we had a really good chat with Kim and Chris earlier, going over the different stretch goals and the different tiers that people could back the Kickstarter at, and we did discuss a little bit the setting that we set the Kickstarter core rulebook in, at least. So can you tell me a little bit more about the setting and the timeline that this game is going to take place in, or at least the book that we wrote? So the books.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So the timeline for Adventures like Ankh-Morpork is the end of the century of the Anchovy, I believe, which is, in terms of where the books are, it's right before it's the year that we're going into, the year that Thud and Going Postal take place in. So it's probably about 3/4 to kind of 80% of the way through the Discworld timeline. And so we picked that because it's nice, it's towards the end, so you can kind of explore almost everything in the setting, which is really cool. And it's just before the kind of Industrial Revolution stuff really kicks off. So you can obviously bring that into your games because we're right at that point in the timeline, or you can choose to leave that out and have the kind of more quasi medieval style Ankh-Morpork that you had before. And yeah, so that's the timeline. That's where Adventures like Ankh-Morpork is set, basically.
Awesome.
You're wrong, Bryce. Caught you out. It's at the end of the century. The beginning of the century of the Anchovy.
My God, did I know more than Bryce for a second? I remember that from your interview.
Got ya.
I was wondering, I was like, is that right? And I was like, I'm not going to question it.
No, you're right.
So roll it back, timeline.
And then we'll cut it. Right, I'll just say it correctly now, and then we'll cut it together in the broadcast. We'll fix it in post. Yeah.
Timey-wimey things. It's fine.
It's at the end of the century of the
fruit bat.
Is it fruit bat? Yes.
There you go. Yeah, you got it. Got it.
It's at the end of the. Thank you. Your daughter is just cheering me on there. I just heard in the background. Yeah, it's at the end of the century of the fruit bat and going into the century of the anchovy. I do apologise. I have to burn my arms now. That's.
No.
Take all the tattoos off you.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to have them anymore.
We also talked a little bit. One of the questions that came up was talking about this isn't 2D20. This is kind of exciting. This is new territory. Can you talk about a little bit more about that and what was the reasoning behind that? Talk a little bit about the mechanic and what people can expect with it.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about that, Andy, didn't we? When we met up in Nottingham last, and that was quite an organic process, wasn't it? In terms of like figuring out maybe if 2D20 could work, and then leading on to the Narrativium system.
Yeah. So like at the very start of this, when we were looking into how we could possibly make an RPG in Discworld, we looked into 2D20, it being our in-house system we love. It's great. It's brilliant at what it does. And we sort of came to the conclusion that Discworld is such a unique setting, even though it's now been like absorbed into the psyche of general fantasy. Like any fantasy lover, I feel, of our age or younger has read Discworld and knows Discworld, even if they don't, if that makes sense. Even if they haven't read it, they know of it. It's like the image of Great Arturian with the disc on its back is sort of just out there in general culture. So we felt like it needed its own system to really make it shine, something that really lets the words come first, because like Pratchett plays with words so much, like it's got literal wordplay, like the way that he puts sentences together are just beautiful and strange and weird and wonderful. So we wanted to really get that across and allow players to sort of experience that as well. So like running in and hitting something with a +5 longsword is not Pratchett, it's not Discworld. There are plenty of games that do it and they do it well, if it's good for that system, but just would have felt wrong. It would have felt so wrong. So we deliberately decided that we wanted to steer clear of numbers, modifiers. Like we didn't even want you rolling a dice and adding something because you have X amount of positive traits, which was one of the early builds that we were looking at. We were like, oh, let's see if we can play with that. But then we went even further down. It was like, no numbers. This is numberless. Let's just purely on dice size. So that was the sort of thought process. That sort of, process is a strong word. No, I will use process. The thought rolling down the hill that ended us at the bottom of where we are with the Narrativium system.
I'm really genuinely annoyed because noodling in the back of my brain, separate from Odysseus, I have been thinking to myself, I really want to design a tabletop RPG that doesn't rely on numbers. And you've just done it. So now I just basically just going to play this game forever.
That's a shame.
Oh no!
How could you?
But we do have pretty dice. Like there are. So you said that it's not going to be. You're not going to have to think about all these numbers and stuff and everything. But we do have really pretty dice and a beautiful dice tray that are involved. One of the unlocks and everything and some of the tiers. They're so pretty.
A huge shout out to Norse Foundry, who we've partnered with for this Kickstarter to bring us dice and the dice accessories. So the Death Tray of Holding is one of their tray of holdings that they have. A beautiful blue felt lined dice tray with. We had a couple of designs. They sent us over some mock-ups, and the one we've picked with like a full illustration with Death on the front with the cat is just absolutely stunning, I think. And then in a couple of updates, we've been showing off more close-ups of the blue like shattered zircon dice, the Death's dice, and when we were working with the team, Danny as well as the project manager, I was like, these have to be just like evocative of like Death's eyes, and that like they have to capture that perfectly. And while they're not that kind of like really almost like really whitey turquoisey kind of like frosted color, which is maybe what we were thinking of first of all. That like shattered zircon, and when you actually get it in your hand, Danny was like showing us earlier on a call as we were watching number go up. They're just so beautiful to handle. They're weighty. They feel like they're worth it, and I think they're just going to be absolutely amazing for those people in the Blackboard monitor tier.
And shout out to our project manager for Discworld, who is in the chat, Danny. So he's in the chat.
He's checks for traps.
Yes.
Yeah, he's checks for traps. Shout him out.
Yeah. So good to see you.
Is that a moderator thing I can do? Maybe.
I think so.
While we're showing Danny out, on my screen we just turned over to 500,000.
What? Yay! Congratulations!
Really? Oh, wow.
So
Is this
exciting.
where we get the procession?
Yes, roll it out. Roll it out. It'll get there between 1 and 5,000 business days. And
He's gone, you didn't mean.
no, he has some. What? You were prepared for everything. That's
I'll crack that
awesome.
open later. I don't know if we're allowed to on stream.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Nobody.
Yeah, the
I
terms
will-
and conditions are a bit flaky on that one.
It's fine. It's
I
fine.
will say I don't think anyone, well, certainly I haven't done any non-Kickstarter related work today, as we've been referring to. I've just watched number go up. It's been great.
That's basically Kickstarter work. That's what I've been doing today, more or less.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you've been doing.
You know.
It's the only thing.
Y'all been very busy today. I've seen the chats. We did talk earlier about Cam and Chris were talking about how big of fans that everybody that's working on this project and everybody in the company is of Sir Terry Pratchett's work and Discworld, and how this was just a dream IP for everybody to be able to work on. So can y'all talk about that? Like what's your history with Discworld, and how did you discover it, and what's your favorite books, and just tell me all the things. Like, show me your mega fan-ness, please.
What's Discworld?
It's a little late now to be asking that question.
Well,
No,
talk to the boys, because I do not qualify. I do not qualify. This is one of the brands that I don't know very well. I knew it tangentially. I've never read any of the books. I'm partway through listening to The Colour of Magic in a way to kind of get into and understanding the brand a little bit better. I was immediately told that's not the book to read by about 3 different people and given 5 different recommendations. So I don't know. But yeah, I know enough about it to speak the Discworld. Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, for me, like I was, I think about 13 or 14, and my mum gave me a Discworld, like one of the early Discworld books. I can't even remember which one, honestly. And she said something like, "I think you might like this," and those words sort of altered the trajectory of my life, because that led to me being like obsessed with Discworld, like throughout my whole life, basically. And particularly when I was a teenager, I credit the Discworld series with forming quite a lot of my core beliefs, if you know what I mean, and like my sort of moral compass. A lot of it comes from Pratchett, and a lot of it comes from the Discworld series, because those books have a really, really in-depth philosophy in there that is humanist and kind and clever, and just, it believes in the value of individual human life. And I think that's a philosophy that is so valuable and so important, and it really, like, the series just really got its claws into me when I was a teenager. And I've read, like, some of the Discworld books I've read literally 20 or 30 times. Like, I read incredibly quickly, and I read Hogfather every year at Christmas, just because it's like it's like my Christmas tradition for myself. You know, I just get out Hogfather and I read it. And like various other books out there, like Night Watch is probably my favourite. But the thing I will say is, Thud. See after you have a kid, because my kid is like a toddler now, he's still quite young. But I read Thud for the first time quite recently after having had a kid, and Thud hits real different when you have like a kid that's about that age. Like, it it is intense. Like, it's very, very powerful. And yeah, like, there are so many phenomenal books that I feel like if I was to list my favorites, I would just start listing the Discworld series from the start. But yeah, like Night Watch, basically all the Watch books. Actually, I love Hogfather. All the Witches books as well, incredible. Like Carpi Jogulum is probably my favorite, but they're all kind of fantastic. And I have a real soft spot for We Free Men and the Tiffany Aching books as well, because I grew up on a farm. So it's why I've got Thunder and Lightning, like you can see Thunder there. But the sheepdogs from Tiffany Aching, because when I was a kid, we had 2 sheepdogs that my granddad trained, and he died before, like, I was like 2 or something. So when I read like the Tiffany Aching books, and she's talking about her gran training the sheepdogs, and the sheepdogs like always being present, I was like, oh yeah, I live in a farm, that's me. So it was really nice. So I have a real soft spot. They're not my favorite, because I think I was a little bit too old when they came out for them to be my favorite, because they are more young adult, but I still really like them. And obviously I'm Scottish, so I have to like the Feebles. It's in the contract, really. But yeah, so almost all Discworld I adore. But specifically, my favourites are The Watch and The Witches, realistically. Like Granny Weatherwax and Sam Vimes are my 2 favourite characters. And I've been talking for a while, so Andy, do you want to jump in?
You finished just in time for my daughter to stop screaming.
Perfect timing.
She was not happy about being cleaned up after dinner. Favourite Discworld, that is... So we've been asked this a few times in like interviews and things like that, like where we started with Discworld, and
sorry.
One more time can't hurt,
I get to talk Discworld. It's great. It's amazing. I get to chat about my favourite universe.
I mean, like we have to be clear. We are currently getting paid to sit and talk about Discworld. Like that is, yeah, sure. You want to pay me to talk about Discworld? Yeah, I can talk about Discworld for as long as you like. Don't worry about it.
Tough job, isn't it? And we just, in fact, like I'm just covered in books anyway. So I actually started my Pratchett journey, as it were, not on Discworld, which seems like the heresy of all heresies. But I started as a very young reader on Johnny and the Bomb, Truckers, Diggers, Wings, Carpet People, all of his like young adults, like really young adult stuff, and then moved into Discworld. My brother he had Marfan syndrome. He had issues with his eyes, so he couldn't read very well. Like he had to have big text. So I grew up with the audiobooks read by Tony Robinson, which I didn't realize were abridged until I was like a teenager. And I was like, God damn it, I've been missing half these stories. And then I started reading them. And I have a very vivid memory of sitting down in a local bookshop waiting for my mum to pick out another book while I opened the first page of Colour of Magic, which was my first time reading Discworld as opposed to listening to it. And it was amazing. It's awesome stuff. And then I used to like fall asleep listening to the audiobooks on repeat because I was they weren't even audiobooks back then. They were story tapes. That's how it was in that time. I won't name the decade because it'll make me sound old.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, like story tapes.
Jesus. Do you mean the 1900s?
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
the 1900s.
That century we left, but we lived in. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one.
Are we that?
And favourite. Feet of Clay. No.
Feet of Clay is so good.
I'm going to say, that's first answer, Feet of Clay. I think Feet of Clay is my favourite Pratchett book. Although, as Bryce said, rereading them recently after having a child, like Thud and Night Watch, they hit different. They made me cry, like just absolutely weeping. It was a beautiful moment and that's one of the things about Pratchett, like you reread them and you get stuff that you didn't get the first, second, third, 100th read. There's always other little bits to find in there, like one example, that rereading them like critically, I suppose, for creating this RPG, that I read it 100 times. Pseudopolis is it's a city that we never see because it's a pseudo-polis. It's a fake city. Like, stuff like that is just there, and you just don't, you notice it, but you don't, and it takes like 20 rereads before it clicks. You're like, and you get that little moment of reading them for the first time again, just on like one little bit of wordplay. It's good stuff. So I have now rambled for a very long time, so I'm going to stop.
So I have to correct myself, because I have now just remembered that by default, my favourite Discworld novel is Mort. Because, not that I've read it, but I did watch a musical stage production of Mort put on in the Greenwich Playhouse that my friend lit as a Christmas show. But they had a giant death puppet. It was so good.
What? That's so cool.
So yeah, that happened. That was a thing that happened. Someone produced that.
Oh my god.
That's so cool.
Good for that. It does sound quite cool. I was just gonna, while we're still talking about favourite books, one I forgot to mention is when my kid was born, I got Where's My Cow? Because you can actually buy, like, there is a book that you can buy of Where's My Cow, and I read it to him, and unfortunately he did the toddler thing of getting obsessed with it to the point where there was one day I read that book upwards of 20 times, and it's the only time I have ever thoroughly despised a Pratchett book. I was like, if I have to read this book one more time today, I'm going to lose my entire mind, you know?
Yeah.
Really good.
So kind of talking a little bit about what you were mentioning earlier, Andy, so I don't want to like give away too many spoilers because we did talk earlier about Easter eggs and stuff in the previous chat that I had, that there will be like little Easter eggs and little tidbits that people can find and be like, aha, and so we know that y'all put some of those in there. Did you have to stick pretty close to areas that have already been fleshed? You know, the areas that are very well known. Were you able to create new characters in the world? Like, what are some of the things that you got that you could and couldn't do with this? Because there's always going to be those questions like, what did you do that's different? What did you do that's unique? And is it canon? And we get those questions all the time. So right off the bat, are there things that you got a little bit of leeway with that you got to create yourself, or did you just have to really play within the coloring lines that were already there with the world and the lore and everything?
So we've got the Quickstart out now, which people can download for free. Plugged. So that in that we have created a set of new characters. These are not characters from the novels. These are inventions of the dev team that we have come together and made these new characters for people to play with. So we have that little bit of leeway, but for the most part, we are trying to stick pretty faithfully. Faithfully is the wrong word. We're not treating it as like gospel. It's not like, oh, these are sacred words that cannot be touched. But we're trying to adapt it as well, I guess is the word, as well as we can.
Like we have some leeway. Because, and I think you got it right there when you said like we're not treating it as gospel, because I think Pratchett would have been horrified by the concept of his words being like sacred, you know, like they're words, like they're meant to make you feel a thing, and they are sacred to an extent, but you don't want to be like, no one must ever touch this, it must be locked on a pedestal and never played with, you know, like words are there to be played with, they're there to be enjoyed. So we can invent some stuff, and like Andy said, for the quick start, we invented some new characters that we thought fit. But we are being very respectful, I would say, because like the thought of doing something bad to Discworld or making a bad Discworld thing that doesn't feel like Discworld makes my skin crawl. So yeah, we can. It's a weird one. There's a lot of space to play with in Discworld because Ankh-Morpork is a city of 100,000 souls and, of course, 10 times that number of actual people. And so there's a lot of space to invent stories, a lot of space to invent characters that don't tread on any toes. And obviously you can have those characters interact with some of the Discworld characters. You know, we can have Vine show up and say, don't do this, don't do that, as long as that feels thematically appropriate and like in character for Vines, right? And we have that with the Pratchett estate. Like, obviously reads everything that we send them before anyone else sees it, basically. So, like, everything has to get approved by the Pratchett estate, and specifically Rob Wilkins, before anyone else can see it. So, like, everything we do is very much like, would Terry like this? Hopefully. And Rob, who I think is one of the people in the world that knew Terry best when he was alive, is probably the best person we have to judge that.
You know, and to answer in all seriousness for a moment, one of the parts of my job is really to do the kind of like analysis of a brand, or like what we'd call like an intellectual property or something, to really dig into the heart of what makes it not good, but like, you know, why it's interesting to work with and stuff. So one of the things that talking to both Andy and Bryce about this in the workshop was very much coming to the conclusion that we absolutely are not Terry. We could never be Terry. And so my kind of little in-house slogan for that was like, let Terry speak. So as opposed to trying to like emulate his voice and, you know, write jokes that are trying to match his timbre and his structure and everything like that, it's more about inhabiting a little bit of the spirit of that and having fun with it and highlighting its silliness but also its satire. And I think that the guys have done a really good job of that from the evidence in the Quickstart. And some of the things talking about them, like I'm not going to mention the little bit, but when Bryce, you were saying about this one particular little joke or thing that you want to add into the core rulebook, and I just found it absolutely hilarious. But like it's been done really well, and so we want to be respectful and we want to be faithful to Discworld, but we're absolutely not trying to like emulate Terry in that sense. We're trying to inhabit the spirit of his humor, I think, but do it in our own way. And that hopefully that's also coming across like in the Kickstarter, where we're adding little footnotes about, like, I've got a whole bit about the collector's edition like footnote, because it literally had the title of the product has a little asterisk in it, because there was a whole thing about, we got asked, oh, can you invent a name for the collector's edition cover that explains that it's got this, and it's got 2 bookmarks, and it's got UV spot varnish, and it's got Paul Kidby's new artwork and everything like that. And at the end of all of that discussion, Danny, me, Bryce, and Andy all went, well, collector's edition is just the name. This is still the best name. Like, why are we trying to like do this? So that has become a joke. That's become a bit in the Kickstarter copy. So hopefully, just being kind of inhabiting that very British, self-aware, dry sense of humour means that, you know, we're putting our best foot forward.
I love that so much. So just like just like with any of our other games that we are getting to work in, that's not a world that we created, we're being respectful of the license. We're getting approvals, and anything that we put in the books, it's adjacent to. It is not canon. It's not anything like that. We've said this multiple times for all of the lines, like Dune and Star Trek and Fallout and all of those types of games. We are not creating anything new in the world that is canon, because this is
Absolutely.
Their stuff. We are adjacent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So.
You know, the canon of something like Discworld. Well, let's talk about that as because this, you know, is the topic of the Kickstarter. The canon of Discworld is really just the words that Terry wrote, like that are in the novels, really. And you know, there are other like products, there are other things, other bits of content that are out there that are not ours, but are canon adjacent. And the one thing about tabletop RPGs in particular is that when I field this question about, is this thing that you're doing canon, well, it can never really be canon, because we're only a licensor. And I understand that people, you know, they want things that they can put into their own canon, but, you know, having run long-form streamed games of stuff like Game of Thrones, the thing that I was saying to my players, because they were like, oh, well, we're playing before even the books are set. Like, is what we do going to affect canon? And I said, well, from the second that we started playing, we were basically on a different timeline, because whatever you do is going to affect the world differently. Like you guys aren't in the books. So I would say to people who are interested in whether it's canon or not, or worried about kind of playing, getting things wrong when they're playing or something like that. Like but when you start playing, particularly when you start GMing, it's your Discworld now, and that only matters to the 5 people around the table. So don't worry too much about that. Find the liberation in the fact that you can make it your own, and like you don't feel beholden to that. That's our problem. We've got to do that when writing the books.
Yeah, I would say if you start getting too into your head about canon, I would quote the philosopher Douthwaite, who said, "Things just happen. What the hell?"
I love
good philosophy.
Someone in chat said Terry always explained any historical inaccuracies between the books and themselves was due to stepping down another trouser leg of time. I really like that. That was really great. All right, so let's see. If you have any other questions, you can type them in. You can put them in chat, and we'll try to get to them. We still have a little bit of time left to get through any questions that might come up. Go ahead.
Earlier, we did have one about watch dice, which I can answer because Cam failed miserably. So you will see on the social stretch goals right now that we revealed the watch dice as a potential social stretch goal. And so there's kind of 2 things going on there. If we reach enough social goals to unlock that reward, that means that the watch dice will be added to the campaign as an add-on only. So you will need to add on the watch dice in order to get them. But that is only until they actually appear as a real, as a monetized stretch goal in the main list of stretch goals, which they will during the campaign. So, like we've been answering people in the comments, that still will go to Blackboard Monitor pledge levels, but only when it gets unlocked as a main stretch goal. If it's unlocked first as a social stretch goal, then it will only be an add-on. So it really depends when it gets unlocked and by which method in the campaign.
Awesome.
So that's how you can unlock the watch dice. Either as an add-on, first of all, with the social stretch goals, or just as a regular stretch goal in the funding goals that we have.
Can y'all tell me a little bit about, people are really interested in character creation and creating their own character that they can play in this setting in this world. And so they don't have to, in the Quickstart, we do have pre-generated characters that people can play, some well-known characters. But can you tell me a little bit about what goes into character creation when people are going to start playing this game?
Yep, they'll get to create them.
They'll get to create.
So that was one of the things. We spent some time figuring out how best to do character creation. I'm not sure how much I can say without giving stuff away. Ooh. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And by the end of your character creation, you will basically be stepping straight into the first scene of your adventure, your story, whatever it is. It's designed to sort of set you up in that regard of getting you going, getting you onto the streets, getting you right into the middle of your story. So unless you really want to, you probably won't be meeting in a tavern. But I mean, you could.
Although you can,
yeah, as long as it's the drum.
Yeah.
Or maybe the bucket. Possibly the bunch of grapes. Or the troll's head. Or beers. Yeah. There's a few.
I think the thing about character creation is that, one thing we've said is, if you can define it, you can play as it. Your character will be a collection of traits. And a lot of the character creation that we have is about guiding you in picking or making up your traits, I think is the cleanest way to put it. It's all about just figuring out who your character is through a collection of words and phrases. Is the kind of long and short of it. So it's not dice-based, like we say. It's not your character has 15 strength and 5 dexterity or whatever. But words are good.
Okay, so does it have, with some of our games, we have ways that characters can level up. Is that is that in this? Is there a level up system for characters in this, or is it just you're playing as your character and maybe you get a couple like new little traits as you go, or how does it work with this game? Or can you speak to that? Is that something that we can speak on?
Yes, to both. It's not so much a level up. Like, the idea of leveling up again is a bit odd, but it's more like characters evolve, they grow. So one of the lines that is in the core book is that you don't know a character until you spent a story with them, and I think that's incredibly true. So as you go through, there are mechanics in place that will sort of allow your character to grow, like seen from the Quickstart's consequences. You've got a core, there's core moments, there's things like all of these different aspects that allow you to sort of engage and grow and change your character. So we wanted to really be able to show. So, for example, Vimes, as a prime example, we meet him at the beginning of Guards, and he is an alcoholic mess of a man. He is a shell and just not in a good place. But we leave him as captain of the Watch. Like, he has grown so much and changed so much in that story. And we wanted to be able to, we wanted player characters to be able to do that. So we've put that in there, and there's like rules for returning characters and things like that. But yes, it's not so much leveling up as it is growing and writing your character.
It's like people change as they grow, right? Like when I was 17 or let's say 18, I had the trait can drink until 6 a.m. every night and be fine about it. You know what I mean? And now I have the trait gets tired at 10 p.m. Right? That's just how people evolve. And that is a very natural progression that how your characters will evolve in the game. As they play the game, they will gain consequences, some of which will be negative, some of which will be positive. And over time, that can kind of morph into a whole new person because that's how people evolve. And yeah, we just thought that was a much more fitting system. Like, I think the analogy of Vimes that Andy was talking about there was really, really good because that is exactly it. Like, people change as you play them, people change as you spend time with them, and you'll be spending a lot of time with your character, so they will change and grow.
Hopefully, do play the game for a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, buy it. I don't actually care if you play it. I mean, I'd like you to, but
I do.
As long as you give it
Stop saying the quiet part out loud.
No, we were talking about this in the first chat too. Some people buy some of our books, like Dune and Star Trek Adventures, and I'm going to assume this one as well. Not necessarily because they want to play it, but because they are a fan of Discworld. And what we are really good about here at Modiphius is adding beautiful art, beautiful like lore building and information that people might not necessarily know that we did have learned, from the estate and stuff like that. So people treat these some of these books, they don't treat it as I'm going to play this. They treat it as this is my collector's item, and I really enjoy it, and I just want to have it to be able to enjoy what it is. So yeah, like, it's fine if you don't want to play, but we would like you to play. Yeah, speaking of things that we would like people to do, I run our social media pages, obviously, and I know a lot of people have been asking about the social media goals. Samantha, is that something that you can speak on, please, if you are able to?
Yeah, so essentially the social media goals are a second set of stretch goals that we unlock from subscriptions to our newsletter or likes on our Facebook page, our Instagram, subscriptions to our YouTube channel. You can join our Discord as well. You can follow us on TikTok. And then as we get those milestones, if we hit those milestones, say if we get 40,000 total followers, likes on our Facebook page. That's not new likes, that's just total. We've already got like 38 or so. Then we'll unlock the next social reward in the queue. So it can come from any channel, it doesn't matter where from, but if we reach any one of those milestones, first of all, we'll unlock a 6th character to the Quickstart, which is Molyneux. What's her face, Molyneux? I don't remember her first name.
Molyneux.
There we go. And then, the Watch Dice as an add-on is the second one. And then the third one that we have at the moment is the Alchemy RPG virtual tabletop integration. We will be revealing more social stretch goals as the campaign goes on, obviously. One of them involves Bryce and a tattoo at some point. Hopefully we'll get there. So please like us on all of the different social media platforms, because I have it on some kind of social contract that he will get a new tattoo if we reach a certain point in the social contract.
The company's paying for it, right?
No.
Oh.
That part, no.
Well, that's very different.
Is that what you thought was going on?
Yeah.
No. You should get a whole.
Probably.
You should get a whole total back piece of the collector's edition cover art. That'll cost nothing, right?
Yeah. Just one tattoo. That's all I'll get. Just
I've
one
got a Sharpie
back,
somewhere.
Not quite the same. No, I know what one I want as well. I want Words in the Heart Cannot Be Taken from Feet of Clay, because I've wanted that one for years. I think it's such a good quote. Not
what
exactly.
great excuse you have now.
I know. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where I get it, but somewhere, I don't know, maybe on this arm, because this arm's bare at the moment.
The sole of your left foot.
Oh. Oof.
I just want to know.
I knew a guy in uni who got Andy on the sole of his foot, because it's like Woody in Toy Story.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly painful, and it rubbed off after about 2 months.
Yeah, that's just like hands.
Yeah, it's pointless.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Circling back.
Circle back.
Yeah. So that's challenging. Let's talk about other challenges. So what challenges did you face when adapting the unique humor? So we kind of talked a little bit about this. So did y'all have any challenges in adapting the unique humor and intricate world of Terry Pratchett's Discworld series into an interactive game format? So did you have any challenges of like, I know that we are not, and people have made it very clear in chat and on our socials that we are not the first people to make a Discworld TTRPG. However, it's been quite a long time. So did y'all have any challenges in tackling, translating this into a TTRPG setting?
No.
Well, the Ouija board was pretty hard because I mean he only spells out one letter at a time, so it's just been ages. So I just tried to fix it. I'm sorry.
We're only up to chapter 2 at the moment. Right?
Yeah.
Oh man, challenges. Like honestly, the first challenge that we probably faced was the mental one. Of like, you get told you have to make a Discworld game when I've been a fan of Discworld for like 20 years and like 2/3 of my life, right? And you get told that you're making a Discworld game and your brain mostly shuts down apart from your panic center, and then you just scream internally for about an hour. So yeah, that was honestly very hard. But the thing is that Discworld has such memorable places and characters, and like particularly Ankh-Morpork, right? Because Ankh-Morpork is the place where most, like the highest percentage of Discworld books are set, right? Is in Ankh-Morpork, like the highest single place at least. Because obviously there's books all over the desk, but a lot of places on the desk only get like there's one book on the Counterweight continent, there's one book in Borogravia and stuff like that, right? There's one book in Clash. Ankh-Morpork, like so many books are at least partially set in Ankh-Morpork, and so there's a huge cast of characters that are kind of around, and like they're all very funny and just exist in the background, right? Andy, because you've worked more on the roles early on than I did, what were your sort of challenges coming from?
I think the first challenge was deciding how you possibly create a system that works. I think it's something that actually, being where we are in the development of roleplay games and things like that, is as a less of a challenge now than it would have been 20 years ago when they created GURPS, 25, 28, however many years ago, when they created the GURPS. There wasn't that many roleplay games around. They haven't been around long enough to develop into distinct areas like they have now. Like you've got more narrative driven, you've got more comedy driven, you've got more like mechanics driven, more crunchy things. So having this massive plethora to choose and sort of like gain inspiration from. I think made that, while it was a challenge, a lot less than it would have been. But I think one of the biggest challenges, which thankfully me and Bryce basically grew up with Pratchett's works, our tones, our natural writing style has had that injected into it from the off, from like the start of writing anything. I'm sure I probably wrote some awful pieces at school that sounded ever so marginally like I'd read Pratchett because I had read lots. So that, I think, getting the tone right, it was a massive challenge, but again, not as big as it could have been purely based on the far too many times that we've read his books.
Yeah, I if no one tells me otherwise, I do try and write like Pratchett when I write things, like normally, like that is my normal tone of writing, because that has just been so formative, like in so many different ways. So yeah, tonally was oddly enough probably the easiest bit, like just because I know it, I can get the tone of Discworld without even thinking about it. Like I'm so steeped in those books.
Was there a challenge, I wonder, in like, because we have come to the adventures in Ankh-Morpork as a kind of wider strategy. Cam was talking about the kind of sustainability of the Kickstarters, and I even penned a footnote literally 11 o'clock this morning, an hour before we went live, which was like, okay, well, did you want us to cover everything? Did you want to charge you £900 and deliver 6 years from now? Like, did you want that? Because that's kind of what we're talking about, to cover absolutely everything. But was there a challenge in kind of paring down what you wanted to cover? Because there's a certain amount of, you want to do the things that you explore and discuss in the book justice. You don't just want to kind of just mention things and skim over them and leave the reader to fill in all the gaps. So, has there been a challenge when you're thinking about the content of the rule books or the adventure material or the structure of these chapters, that you think, I have to leave something out, or, okay, we need to focus on these things because that's kind of core to what we're producing?
Yeah, luckily, because we have stretch goals, we could kind of be like, okay, well, hopefully this gets unlocked in stretch goals, because like the first sort of vision of the core book, I think, would have been about 900 pages or something stupid, like, because you're like, okay, well, what is core and essential to Ankh-Morpork? And then you start writing, like, and you're aware that you're just writing chapter headings, and then you're like, this is okay, we're going to need to cut this down a little bit.
I've been there.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is now being pushed into like the lesser known streets of Ankh-Morpork, that sort of side of it, because that was a lot of, we had some very heart-rending conversations about what constitutes like is this character big enough to go in the core book, which in Ankh-Morpork is really hard because there's like hundreds of really memorable and cool characters, and you have to make some decisions, unfortunately, just because like otherwise the book is going to be enormous. So yeah, luckily it was not really like sticking within Ankh-Morpork isn't hard, because as I've talked about, like it is the biggest location on the disc, and so the reason we were so comfortable picking it as the core location for this Kickstarter is like you can set stories in Ankh-Morpork for 100 years and interact with a different character in every single story. You know what I mean? Like there's so much in that city, and that's even just staying within our current time zone. Oh dear, I'm getting the phone. That's just staying within our current time zone. Let alone if you were to, like I talked about, let your adventure slide more into the industrial age stuff as well. That phone call has completely thrown my train of thought. I'm sorry, Andy, jump in.
You did.
No, I think you've covered pretty much everything. I think another thing that's been quite interesting is in adapting this world to tabletop is the NPCs and how we've approached them. I can't say too much because back the game, but the way that we have put together, for want of a better word, a stat block for the known NPCs. Don't worry, there's no stats, there's no numbers. Again, numbers be gone. We don't like numbers here.
Yeah,
a dev term. Yeah. Like putting together those and getting the NPCs have traits as well as players. I think I can tell you that much. I'm not telling you what they are. But boiling down like these NPCs that have come through so many like books or so many stories to these traits, that was really challenging. I spent a good while this summer just sat reading the books, being like, how do I get these characters into this space, like without losing any of their themness, like without losing any Vimesness? How do we get Vimes from every single book in Ankh-Morpork pretty much to this space in our book? That I think has been quite a challenge, but I think we've done it. I'm going to go out. No, we have done it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we have definitely done it. And we managed to get the essence of those characters across.
I think you have done it. I think you have done it justice. And the reaction from fans across the Kickstarter page, across social media and stuff, has reinforced that for me. I think you guys have done an amazing job.
And people are...
Look at the British reaction to that, like, compliment.
I assume we can bring this up next year with peer review, yeah?
No.
Yeah, this is going to be available on demand.
Not with me.
You just clip all of this and be like, and put this in your review.
Yeah.
I'm clipping this, yeah. A member of the senior management team saying that we did a fantastic job on camera.
On camera, recorded. So we talked before that there might be some Easter eggs in this, and you don't necessarily have to talk about those because we want people to find those. But what are some of your favorite bits that you got to put into this that you were just really excited to share with people that I got to put that in because it was really important to me? Is there anything that just stands out to you that was one of your favorite bits that you got to put in?
I got to write stat block for the librarian, who is my favourite character, and it was amazing. And yes, it has the word ook.
That's cute.
Absolutely.
Somebody in chat actually said, assuming he is in there, was it difficult writing dialogue for the librarian?
I think it was our marketing manager wanted to write in the as librarian because Sharif is also a big Discworld fan, and we were workshopping. At one point, we were writing something for like an email, and we were workshopping the ooks. You know what I mean? Like there's like 3 people in a room going over the number and length of like the ooks, and Andy's sort of sitting there like a forensic scientist after a while, like add an eek. I
can't. What are you talking about?
Genuinely, 3 people sat in a meeting for about 10 minutes doing that. It was great.
3 grown adults going ook, ook,
ook, ook, ook, ook. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you, Bryce? Any favorite bits?
This part is not getting brought up at peer review.
The wasting of 10 minutes. 3 times 10 minutes.
Okay, Bryce, so any favorite bits from you that you got to put into this that you're excited about?
Oh, God. So I haven't, because I'm the editor, like, I'm not really, like, I am more refining and polishing a lot of content rather than adding anything. That said, I have reserved my privilege as the editor to add and polish a lot of the footnotes in particular. So, a lot, like a good chunk of the footnotes that you see in there are me. Obviously, all of the writers, Andy, everyone has put in footnotes, but they're my like special little baby because I get to come in at the end and kind of get a top level view of the whole book and then go, oh, this would be really funny here, this would be good here, this would be good here. And getting to write footnotes in the Discworld thing is a special kind of, like, it's just awesome. Like, it's just very, very cool. I really like it. So that's really fun. But in terms of, like, content and stuff, like, that's more Andy's sort of job. I just add snide little asides and stuff, because that's what editors do.
That's fun. That's part of the fun. That's good. You contribute too. Are there any, you know, we're coming to the end of our hour. We're just a little bit over. But do you have any other last thoughts about the Kickstarter and the game, or anything else you'd like to share that you got to work on the project, or anything like that you just want to share with everybody?
It's only been one day, so we have plenty to show you later. In terms of stretch goals, in terms of updates, we'll be showing off closer images of the products. We'll be sharing more insights into the game as we progress through the campaign. We've got another 20-something days left. That's not etched into my brain yet, so sorry. 23 days to go. So, yeah, if you've been asking, are we going to have this? Are we going to see that? Are you going to have this character? Stay tuned to our updates. Stay tuned to the campaign, because we were frantically trying to update stuff today and get the stretch goal graphics, re-uploaded and stuff as we smash through them. But we do have more to offer, so just stay tuned.
There's a stretch goal that I'm really keen. Actually, I'm going to refer to it very obliquely. You know the one that was my idea? Do you know what's happening with that one? Are we still doing that?
I have seen evidence of it physically existing.
So excited.
So, maybe.
Okay, cool. I'm very keen on that one. Well, I
Of
don't
a
want to give
prototype
the whole...
existing.
I don't want to give the whole game away, but I just haven't heard any updates. This is just me catching up with Samantha. She's been very busy today.
Yeah, we're not live on the internet.
Was it
No.
the picture that I saw earlier of something?
Maybe. I don't know what picture you saw.
I saw something that I thought it was cool. So.
April just saw a picture of some dogs, and she's like, "Are we putting dogs in there?
Are we?
Amazing."
Guys, don't
Everyone
promise
gets a
people dogs.
puppy. That's not a real promise. Not legally binding.
Yeah, you had your fingers crossed. No, there's a couple of stretch goals. Like, there's some adventures and ideas for content that me and Andy got really, really excited about when we sort of came up with them, and I really, really hope we unlock them. And I think, I don't know, based on how it's gone today, I certainly hope we'll unlock them. It looks likely, I think. But there are some really cool ideas for content that I am really, really want to see actually get made. And the one actually that's up at the moment, the what is it? The Hogswatch one? Where is it? Where's the stretch goals? The 550k, which at this rate we're probably going to unlock in the next odd hour. The Hogswatch one I think is really cool, because we wanted to do rules for the night of Hogswatch in the Hogfather. So the Hogfather has disappeared. There was a whole bunch of spare beliefs sloshing around, and who would, like, what would be created? You know, what would come up? Like, those are your characters. You create the kind of the mad things or whatever, and I think that's one of the funniest ideas I think Andy's ever had, and I'm very, very keen to see that one.
Yeah, I peaked with that. Yeah, there's a few stretch goals I'm really looking forward to. There's one, I think we're still doing it. Yeah, we must be, because I remember seeing it, that I'm very excited for. It's going to be completely and utterly useless, and I love it. It's amazing. You will understand when it appears. I will find a way of pointing at it somehow, like this one. This is the brilliant one. When that comes up. But also, building on what Samantha said, it's only been,
a few hours.
7 hours?
7 hours.
7 hours and 9 minutes, and ye gods, you guys have blown it out of the park. Like, look, it's just gone up again. 521618 right now at 9 minutes past 7. Thanks, I guess. Like,
It's incredible.
I'm blown away by it. It's amazing, and it's all down to the fans out there that want more Discworld. They want the game. They want Discworld. They want whatever they want out of it. Bringing back to something that April said earlier about some people getting these just because they're collectors and they just want the thing. There's no such thing as your fun is wrong. So please enjoy this however you want, and it's just our amazing privilege to be the ones that got to make it and bring it to you. So thank you. Well done you.
It was genuinely heartfelt, Andy. Oh my god.
I have a heart, I think.
Did you leave it in the scorpion pit?
Yeah,
we let
me and the Scorpion team.
today. We let them out of the scorpion
Yeah,
cafe.
it wouldn't work. They'd be in
Just
the
today.
background. They'd be chittering everywhere. It wouldn't work. No, we're buds
Just
now.
today.
They're
Tomorrow
helping
you're
me out.
back in the scorpion pit.
Yeah, the problem is Andy has unionized the scorpions, and
That's horrifying because I've actually been finding scorpions in my house. This is the third
Oh,
scorpion that I
no.
have. So actually, I am in a scorpion
No.
pit right now here in Texas.
oh,
So
wait,
when you said-
American, no, you're too, no,
America was a
your
mistake.
stuff is too weird. Stop it.
they're not that big though. They're not Australian-sized scorpions. These are like they're just like a couple
I thought the
inches.
smaller ones were worse.
Probably. I just try to avoid them.
We are really off topic.
Yes.
Let's wrap this up,
So,
shall we?
yes.
I've got dinner to eat.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us for this chat. And like I said, if you missed the beginning of it or if you missed the first segment, you can watch it on VOD here on our Twitch channel. We will be uploading it to our YouTube soon. And if you have any other questions about the Kickstarter or Discworld or anything Modifius, you can ask them. And of course, the Kickstarter chat, you can also ask them in our Discord. Because we are very active in our Discord and there's always people there that will chat with you about things and sharing your excitement. But we really appreciate everyone that's backed this Kickstarter so far and really appreciate everyone that worked on it and is continuing to work on it and make this such a fantastic game that everyone is really excited about. Thank you so much, Samantha and Bryce and Andy for joining me for this chat and taking time out of your very busy launch day. So thank you so much again for joining me. I guess we will stick around because we're going to be rating someone very special, Samantha said. So Jay Britton. So stick around. We're going to be rating them if they are still on, and
Do stick around for Jay. It's very, very funny, and he is a voiceover artist for video games. He did the voiceover for our project video and animation, and he did a very, very good job of that. I really enjoyed adding the captions to his actual audio.
Yeah, everybody loved that
check him
video.
out.
Yeah, everybody commented that video was hilarious. So stick around, and we will see y'all very soon. Bye. If I can get to it. Bye. Oh my gosh. I can't find my screen. Okay.